Hello, Steelers Syndicate. I am Joe Rockey. Thank you for having me back here in your homes. I want to respond to a couple of comments that I was getting as a general theme over the last couple of episodes we made here. The first is that I do not believe that Diontae Johnson is a better football player this second than George Pickens. And that is the general pushback that I was receiving against. People trying to say that Diantte, being the Pro Bowler, being the guy who's in his sixth year, being the most veteran member of the offense, should be essentially getting more respect than saying that the second-year player is already crowned better than him. Well, I'm sorry, but George Pickens is already better than Diontae Johnson. Let's start with the on-the-field results. Diontae Johnson, for the first 13 games of last year, had a negative yards after catch in each game, which meant, on average, when you threw him the ball, he ran the wrong way and got tackled for less yards than if he would have just collapsed the second he caught the ball. That is not the thing a quality receiver does, let alone a team's number one receiver. It is not something that should be encouraged and or accepted in any capacity at all. When we compare this to George Pickens, he has the ability to extend after the catch and, more importantly, is not afraid of contact. See, that's the thing. When Diontae Johnson is approaching the sidelines and the first down stick is 2 extra steps away, he does not consistently, actually he consistently does not, to say that correctly, take the extra 2 steps to get the first down. Rather, he steps out of bounds prematurely to avoid contact. That is not the Steelers' way. This might be a general Steelers opinion, saying I want to hit people, I want to fight for the yardage. And yes, if he was in Arizona, no one would care. Go for it. Step out of bounds, 2nd and 1, whatever. No. That's not how it's not the legacy of Hines Ward is. You don't sit around and say, hey, I'm going to avoid contact. I'm going to run backwards so I don't get hit hard and think that it's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, I was against his contract extension for this very reason, because this was not just a last year phenomenon. Under the era of Ben's broken arm, so that's an era, unfortunately, Diontae Johnson caused more 2nd and 1s than any other player on the team. Now, an argument can be made, well, that's because he had the opportunity to get 9 yards. But the reality is because he stepped out of bounds consistently. And at the end of Ben, we couldn't get a 2nd and 1. We couldn't get a 3rd and 1. It was 4th and 1 and we punted. It was consistent and it was regular. The other thing is Diontae does not put himself in a position on the field in a spot where he can get hit over the middle. And the reason this is relevant to this offense and why it can't be just pointed out and saying, oh, the coach is putting him in the spots, he's not. That's not how Matt Canada draws the offense. He gives each of the players options to go where they want. It's part of the problem of the Canada scheme. You need consistency and not each individual receiver playing for themselves. But since that is the case, and I can show it to you on film of why it's the case, Diontae Johnson is tipping his hand that regularly he just wants to be away from defenders with his feet still. That is the key difference. See, if you are running downfield or creating separation and getting yourself open, as George Pickens can and does, that's what you want out of a receiver. That's what all the elite ones do. I can create separation by running my routes. I don't need to stop and find a spot that's already open because the defense has created it. The Diontae Johnson failure is a big reason our 3rd quarter offense was so horrendous last year, because teams would create holes where they know he would run into and then tackle him short of the sticks. And because they knew he wasn't going to break a tackle or, in most cases, even attempt to get positive yards after the catch, it was the easiest way and a trap to create for our offense to fall right into. And on the one hand, can you blame Kenny? He's a rookie. He sees an open guy. His job is to hit the open receiver. He is being taught very poorly, and this being acceptable is the major problem. So that's the big overview of why I don't believe Diontae is worth anything. I wouldn't want him on this team. If I can trade him right now, barring cap consequences, because the cap kill, I hate cap penalties. But if that didn't exist, and all thing equal world, if I get a third-round pick for Diontae Johnson right now, I'm taking it. I'd have to have a second-round pick because of the cap penalties. But if that was offered to me on draft day, even if it's a 2024 second-round pick, I would gladly accept that. Because as I said in yesterday's episode, I don't think he should ever be above the number 4 option in terms of getting the ball across the season. I want Najee to be number 1, I want Pickens to be number 2, and I want Muth to be number 3. And also, that's a very balanced way to create an offense. Receiver, tight end, and running back, each respectfully being your targets. Dash handing the ball. That's in terms of percentage of having the ball. So, that's a great argument, Joe, for why you don't want Diontae. Why do you want Pickens? Very fair. The guy gets open. His natural frame and size is just freakish. I mean, people that big in terms of height should not be able to move that fast with bulk. Like, the way his body is designed is flat out unique. And that alone is a starting point. Before we throw in the fact that the man can jump, he doesn't drop screen passes, and he fights for extra yardage. The thing that held Pickens back more than anything in the last season was the fact he wasn't given the ball enough. And part of it was just poor play design and not utilizing his strengths. Same argument can be made with Freiermuth in his rookie year, but the fact remains, he's more, both of them, but in this case, George Pickens is more athletic than Diontae Johnson. He brings in the ball at a higher percentage rate, and he does more when he has it. How is this an argument that he shouldn't be given the ball more than Diontae Johnson, or that Diontae Johnson is better than him? It is wildly perplexing to me about why Steelers Nation is continually defending Diontae Johnson. It is just absurd. We are the same people that are crying night and day to put Hines Ward in the Hall of Fame. Now, granted, Diontae Johnson will have a billion better numbers than Hines Ward, but Hines Ward is going to the Hall of Fame because he hit people, because he never stopped fighting for that extra inch. That was the legacy of the Steelers wide receivers. That is what you were required to do to wear the Steelers uniform. Diontae Johnson does not do it. Granted, is he an upgrade over the head case off the field that Antonio Brown was? Off the field, he is. Is he better than Juju, who didn't go to road games so he could make appearances via TikTok? Yes, that's an improvement. But being better than immaturity doesn't make you better on the field. It simply hits the status quo requirement to be on the team. And with that being said, that there is no argument I see about why he should be the predominant target of this team. I'm not even totally sure he should be on this team. As I said earlier, if you can give me a second round pick, I'm taking it. Now, I'm not selling him for a fourth or worse. I'm not being crazy about this. I know the guy has value in his assets, but there's also a situation where he's not on my untouchable list. There's a number of players on this team I'm not trading under any circumstances for a wide array of reasons. One of which obviously is Pickens, Najee, and Kenny, if we're looking at the offense. Obviously, Freiermuth is on that list, and I would no longer consider trading Chooks. So when we look at this, that's a way of saying, do we have offensive pieces that we want to build around? And the answer is the majority of the offense is where the Steelers are tipping their hand saying is yes. They are not changing the right side of their line. They are accepting that, moving that on. They are not changing their tight end room. They are not changing their running back room. So when we look at this, the Steelers are essentially pot committed to keep Diontae Johnson in the next year. The contract and the salary cap hit is that. However, it does not mean that they're married to him forever. The contract is incredibly easy to get rid of when we're having this conversation in March of 2024. And unless he completely shows up and turns around what his career trend has been, particularly over the last 3 years, I don't see a reason to do this. And I think that it might have been essentially an afraid signing that they did knowing they were going to put in a rookie contract or rookie quarterback. You know, with the rookie quarterback, you want to get a guy who has brought in the ball, but he's not a Steelers guy. I mean, Diontae Johnson, at the end of the day, is one of the few players in the NFL that is vastly better at fantasy football, the numbers he puts up, than he is real life on the field. He's on the Mount Rushmore. It's him, Kyler Murray, and Lockett. All of them put up great catch numbers. They give you decent yardage, but they don't fight when it matters. And at the end of the day, I am more comfortable going into, I need to get this done, giving the ball to George Pickens than to Diantte Johnson. And at the end of the day, it's all that really matters. That's why he should get the ball more consistently and regularly.